as we go through. So we're just starting that meeting recording. Thank you very much. Okay, so as we go through the PowerPoint, it is very much about the elements and what to include in the self-evaluation report. You may have joined the previous sessions on the other elements. So this is the last of the 4-week cycle that is about the different elements. If you go on to the next slide, we have lots of different tips as well. And today's tip is about the culture of belonging. I don't know if you came to the deputies conference we had last Tuesday in Speak, Liverpool, if you're on this call and you attended that. But Kevin from our team spoke a lot about that culture of belonging and how pertinent it is in our inclusive schools. There's a lot of research, especially by Harvard University, about the importance of that ethos and that culture, and developing that culture within our schools so that all groups of children feel that sense of inclusion and feel that sense of belonging. Not just the children, it's about the staff, it's about the parents, and it's about all the visitors. That sense of belonging translates really well for today's session, because today's session is about the parents and carers, element 7, who are our key stakeholders, and then our community links. So in today's session, we're looking at how we work with the families in schools and the community around the school. So if we move on to the next slide, what we've done again, as we've done with the previous sessions, is we have broken down each of the criteria within the elements and picked out the key word that relates to that criterion so that you can really see what the expectation is really for what we're asking you to include. So, as I said, it's very much about parents, carers, and guardians, all families, and how you work with them and include them in school. The first criterion is about engagement opportunities. We use that word a lot, don't we, that phrase with parents, parental engagement, parental partnerships. How do you, as a school, engage your parents? Which opportunities do you promote for the parents and carers to be involved in the academic and holistic progress and journey the children make with you throughout their time at your school? And this may be some of the more formal structures you have in place, for example, parents' evenings. It may be any workshops that you offer. It could be how you have the SLT or the class teachers at the playground in the morning. This literally refers to any opportunities you provide for parents, carers, and guardians to communicate and engage with school life. Criterion 7.2 is very much about your inclusion policy, your policies, and how easy they are to access and understand by parents. So whether that be a SEND policy, a behaviour policy, a wellbeing policy, do you ensure that the information is readily available on your website for parents and carers? Do you have a parent app where you make sure the information is available? But also, if you have groups of parents who speak English as an additional language, how do you support that? And that brings me on to 7.3, which is around that translation. We are working with very diverse families. You know, diversity is a fact in today's educational landscape. A lot of our schools are seeing an increasing amount of children coming in whose families are either new to country or speak a different language at the home. So that translation or that interpretation of your key document is very important. It's crucial. How do you support all families? And sometimes it may be a fact of illiteracy. Are your families literate? Do they have good literacy skills? Can they read? So it's about EAL, but it's also about the different types of families that you work with, and how do you ensure accessibility with the documents, the literature that you send home. 7.4 is very much about how parents, carers, and guardians feel in terms of, do they feel as though they are valued partners in your school? You know, do they feel that they can contribute to the school life? Do they feel that you seek their opinions and their feedback? Do they feel listened to? And this again could be the opportunities that you provide for them to come in and speak with the teachers, the staff in school. It might be that they can come in for the whole school celebrations, or maybe you invite parents and carers into assemblies. Also, you know, simple as questionnaires. Do you send questionnaires home? A lot of schools now, as good practice, will use the parental survey from Ofsted or those sort of questionnaires and send them home once per term and get that anonymous feedback from parents and carers, and then obviously act upon that feedback. And do you share with parents and carers how you have acted on that feedback? Do you do those kind of "you said we did" information bulletins? So very much about them feeling like we're all in this together. You listen to them. You know, if they're a parent of a SEND child, not only are they involved in the writing of the support plans, but actually do you ask them what do you think works best for you? 7.5 is about the contact systems in place in schools. So how do you set up your systems within the school day to day operationally, so that parents and carers feel and know that they can contact you? So do they know who the key people are in school? Have you shared that information? Is there a presence in the morning and at the end of the school day? Are the, you know, any phone calls and emails responded to? What does that system look like, so that parents and carers feel that they are made aware of what's happening in the school day? I know some of you in early years will have platforms such as Tapestry, so you could mention that in here. Some of you have Dojo, Class Dojo for that. And a lot of parents and carers do find that ease of access through that. But a lot of it will be the face-to-face. You know, how many opportunities do you give parents and carers to just pass on that simple information? You know, oh, my child had a terrible night last night, just to warn you. Or at the end of the day, if they've had an incident in school and you want to support them with that at home, how do you manage that contact with families? And that leads really nicely on to 7.6, which is around the sort of formal communication systems in place. On the assessment day, when we meet with parents and carers, when we meet with that group of representatives for this element, we always ask about communication, and do they feel that they are well communicated with? Are they kept up to date with what's going on in school? Are they kept aware of their child's progress? You know, if there are any incidences or issues in school, is that information passed on to home? When we talk about the communication, we talk very much about schools' communication with parents. So what systems and processes do you have to share all of the information you hold on the children? And again, that might be that you use the class story side of online apps to share what the children have been doing in the day. You might share information, photographs on social media such as X or Twitter, your school website. You might send home a weekly newsletter. I think with a lot of these criteria, when you break it down, it's not as complicated as it first seems. You know, it's reassuring, but we genuinely want to know, what are your day-to-day approaches and operational systems, so that we get a feel for how parents are kept updated. 7.7 does look more closely at the relational side of this element and how positive relationships are forged with home. I know the more and more that we are speaking with schools within our network, parental engagement, parent partnerships have really suffered post-COVID. It's becoming more and more of a challenge for you schools to get those positive relationships. There seems to be more of a demand with parents and carers in terms of expectations of what they think the school should be doing. more barriers. I think a lot of social media about schools doesn't help with that. So it's about, where possible, you know, we empathize. We know this is a real challenge for you. We know this is a difficulty, but how do you build those positive relationships? How are you trying to break down those barriers? And again, it's how do you look at your communication that you're sending home to share those positives with the parents and carers throughout the day? Do you do more informal kind of meetings with them to try and get them into school for the sort of non-threatening, non-formal sort of organised events? And actually, when we met with the deputies at the conference in Liverpool last week, we had a big conference and we looked very much at this as a group, because a lot of the schools said they would like some support. So if you're sat on this meeting now and you're thinking, oh, I know that's a challenge for us, within our network, we do have lots of amazing practice within that parental partnership and parental relationship side, where schools have gone in and there's been a lot of hostility really, and they've had to really build that up. So please get in touch if that's something you are working on and you would like some support with, because we can point you in the right direction of some good practice. 7.8 is a perspective, I suppose. It's about the confidence that parents have in the school. So do parents, carers and guardians trust the staff and the leaders of the school? Do they feel included and informed? Do they feel that when they drop their young people, their children, off at the start of the day, that they're going to be in good hands? And how you can evidence that is you can include quotes maybe from your parents, or any parental voice activities you have yourselves sent out and got feedback from. It might be as well the fact that you are oversubscribed. If you're at a school that is oversubscribed, that in itself is testament to how confident parents feel about your school, because it is being recommended. The word of mouth is saying go to your school. So there are lots of different ways you can evidence that. So yes, very much a perspective. We will talk about that on the assessment day. We will ask parents, obviously, are you happy with your choice of school? Do you feel confident that they're kept safe? And would you recommend this school to other families? 7.9 gives you the opportunity to celebrate any workshops that you offer parents and carers. So it might be the sort of regular academic support that you might offer at the start of the year. If you're a primary setting, it might be that you do phonics sessions for parents and you show them how you teach phonics. It may be that you do, meet the teacher sessions in September. If you're a secondary setting, it may be the induction evenings or GCSE exam preparation evenings that you offer. If you're a special school, you might want to talk more about some of those parental workshops that you might offer with regard to specific needs, and actually that can translate to mainstream settings as well. Do you offer ASD workshops? Do you offer, if you've got a large group of EAL parents, do you offer English courses? Do you signpost to courses? As with all of our SER document, this is very much open-ended. It's a chance for you to show off what you do. If you currently don't offer much in the way of workshops, that's absolutely fine. Just on the form, state what you do and then put it as a next step. This document is a working document. You're identifying your own strengths and your own areas for development. 7.10. Don't know how I went back to 2 then. 7.10 is about the sort of traditional PTA parent forums that you have in school. So those sort of formal vehicles that you have to bridge the parents and carers with the staff in school regarding whole school events, raising funds. Current climate, funding is a barrier and a challenge for lots of schools. Have you got a really supportive group of parents, really proactive group who go and get lots of funding for you? Are they well connected? Which opportunities do you tap into with parents and carers to provide some of those wider extracurricular opportunities do you ask parents and carers in certain fields of work to come in and talk to the children about aspirations? So it's about your formal PTA kind of parent forums, but you can think wider than that. You can think, how do we bring parents in to enhance either school funds, enhance events, or enhance the sort of wider curriculum? 7.11 gives you the opportunity to recognise everything you do in terms of family support. Schools are increasingly becoming the go-to hub for families as external services become few and far between. We're seeing a lot of parents come into the schools to ask for that advice, that social advice that they would used to seek elsewhere, or maybe in terms of attendance, that obviously has taken a dip nationally since COVID. That family support, what mechanisms do you have in place as a school to support families, whether that's supporting them with their children, supporting them with their children's attendance, or actually what we're finding with a lot of our inclusive schools, supporting them and their well-being. You know, what do you do as a school to support families? And it may be that you link with outside professionals. So you bring in, you know, the autism team for the authority to deliver sleep sessions, healthy sleep sessions with the parents, or do you speak to the housing on behalf of the parents because your parents are struggling? Whatever those sort of wider things you do to help support the families, that's the place to put it. And actually, a big one post-COVID has been the food bank. You know, if you're a school that does have a food bank or a social supermarket, that kind of thing, pre-loved uniform, that's the place that you put it on the SER document. And again, don't think, oh, you know, it's only a small thing that we do. Don't underestimate it, because it will have a huge impact. And we want to hear about it, because if you don't tell us, we won't know that it's happening. 7.12 is again a bit more about the perspective of parents. How do they feel? Do they feel that your staff are approachable? You know, a lot of schools now will make sure they're using the first name terms with parents and carers to break down those sort of formal barriers. Do they feel that if they do have an issue, they could give you a call or email you or make an appointment to see you to discuss that? Do they feel that their concerns and their voice generally is listened to and heard and acted upon? But that approachability really is key. And I think the way I look at perception is their perception is your reality as a school. So even if you think your communication is excellent, or you think your staff are super friendly, you test to make sure that's the same perception your parents and carers have, because what we're looking for is that real alignment. You know, if you're saying, oh, we do this for families, we will speak to the parents and see what their perception of that offer is. So I always think it's a healthy thing for schools to do, a healthy audit, to grab a, you know, focus group of parents and carers to get the thermometer test, you know, gauge what is happening on the playground, what are parents and carers saying about the school, about certain things that you've introduced. So, as always, we've just briefly been through all the criteria for that element. On the next slide, I've got my have you got any questions slide. And this is the point where people often feel probably a bit apprehensive about asking anything, because obviously we're on a forum with lots of different new faces. But please, if you've got a question about element 7, can you please just ask me now? Honestly, if you're thinking it, other people will be thinking exactly the same. And actually, I didn't touch too much on the evidence side. So if you want me to speak more about the evidence, how do you evidence all of this? You know, a lot of it will be evidenced on the assessment day itself, because we meet with parents and carers as you know, the normal protocol for the assessment process. And no, people will actually often wonder which groups of parents we want to meet with, and the answer to that is different representatives from different groups. I've been on an assessment all day today, And the last meeting was with the parents and carers, and they said, okay, so we're here to talk about SEND. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. We can talk about SEND, but actually we're here to talk about everything, because as you know, the IQM Inclusive School Award is about all children, not just the SEND children. So it's not just about the SEND families. We want to speak to the vulnerable families. We want to speak to the affluent families. We want to speak to the EAL families. Literally a cross representation of your demographic. That's who we would love to talk to. Even if you have that lovely group of families where every other word is an expletive and, you know, swear words, we're used to that. We're all from school backgrounds and we are inclusive, so anything goes when it comes to families. Before I move on, I will ask one last time, any questions? No? Thank you very much. We'll move on to element 8, please. Element 8, I feel, and I might be wrong, but I feel like when you've looked at the SER document, this is one that you feel might be something that's quite difficult because it seems quite big when you first look at it, or, you know, links with the local, wider and global community. It sounds really quite massive, I think, in terms of the concept. But actually, when you break it down, it's not as scary as it seems. And actually, it is a lot of things that you're doing already. As with all the criteria, you'll be able to interpret it in a way that allows you to showcase what you do as a school in your unique setting. So on the, I should say here actually, with the overview section, don't forget the overview narrative at the start of each of the elements is sort of the opportunity for you to tell your story. So 1-2 paragraphs maximum about your general approach to linking with the community. As an inclusive school, all we want to see is that you consider the local area and engage with people from the local area. We want to see that you have that global outlook and encourage a global outlook. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have, you know, 29 links with a school in Africa and another school in Brazil. It's very much about the ethos of how you work. And if you're a school that would like to go for a centre of excellence, this, as an assessor, I look quite closely at this element, because this element is the element which tells me how sort of outward facing you are and how much you like to collaborate with others. So element 8.1 is all about community resources. And I think the word resource is key, because there are so many amazing resources that are in each community, and it will differ from school to school. It's all about you showing us that you know your community well and you're aware of the resources available to you. And actually, a lot of the time it'll be that you maximize the use of those resources to enhance provision in school, whether that is actually you've got a really amazing wildlife centre down the road, so you do lots of extracurricular visits to that, or you are a church school and you work really closely with the church. It may be that you know, have some businesses that support you either with funding, or it could simply this, you know, if anyone's a Senko on here, I can see actually we have got at least one Senko, the best job in the school. You will have lots of links within the community in terms of external agencies as well. So that is an opportunity for you to showcase some of that, well, a lot of that work that you do. And yeah, very much open book again. 8.2 links with element 3 really, because it's about the curriculum, but it's about the enrichment side of the curriculum. And again, this has become a huge focus, particularly post-COVID, that big focus on cultural capital. A lot of our schools in the deprived areas, what do you do? What do you offer in terms of opportunities to develop your learners in the sense of the wider curriculum to enrich their overall experience? So this is where you can talk about any external visitors you bring into school. Maybe it's enrichment clubs that you offer at lunchtime or after school. It may be that you have a really developed PSHE program that looks at wider skills. Enrichment in the broader sense, anything that you do at the school that you feel really enhances pupils' experience. 8.3 is very much again about partnerships, but this time instead of partnerships with parents and carers, it's partnerships with the broader community. And for me, the key one here is other educational establishments. Many of you will be in multi-academy trusts. Many of you will be in cluster groups, networks with your local authority. How well do you engage with any partner schools or networks? Do you share best practice? Maybe you lead on a practice, you lead on a network, maybe you are the head of the steering group, or maybe you pilot something for the DFE. There are so many things that you could bring into this 8.3 because they're about the wider partnerships that you have got that make your school a better place. And again, it could be about how you enhance the curriculum with those partnerships. So if you have a really great relationship with a local business, do they support with your careers program? It's so wide ranging, but I would definitely say if you can demonstrate how you share best practice, if you're going for Centre of Excellence, that's the place to do it in 8.3. 8.4 looks at any events that you offer. So throughout the year, looking at your school calendar, are there any events in which the local or even a global community are invited in? So you might do, the obvious ones would be things like sports day, your school fairs, that kind of thing. But do you do a careers fair? Do you have Black History Week celebrations where you bring in guest speakers? It could be special assemblies that you have. It does say in the criterion that it looks at the global community. Maybe you do have online forums with schools further afield. This is the chance for you to celebrate how you involve other people in school life. Do you get some of the elderly community in to come and read to the learners? Do you invite the local coffee shop owner to come in and talk to the children? Whatever links you've got where you bring people into your school to celebrate, that is the chance to showcase it. 8.5 again looks at how you make use of your local community, global community to enhance the learning opportunities. So it may be a curriculum that you've got in place. It might be the fact that you have a local swimming pool that you make use of, or a local gym. It could be how you actually ask the local supermarket to support with fundraising. However you use some of those partnerships to enhance learning opportunities for your young people. 8.6 looks more at the staff side of these global and local links, staff CPD. How do you provide your staff with opportunities to network and link with people from other schools, other businesses within the community? How do you encourage staff to use the knowledge of those collaborations? Can you evidence times where your staff have gone out to visit another school, for example, and then you've brought that idea back into your setting? If you are successful as a Centre of Excellence or flagship school, you'll be part of a cluster group, and that ethos is very much about going into other settings, sharing best practice, and then taking it back to enhance what's happening in your setting. So looking at that very much from a staff development point of view. Maybe you are in a group of schools where you've brought in a trauma-informed specialist and you share that CPD. Some schools are pooling, educational psychologists now, speech and language therapists, or behaviour specialists who will train your staff, and then you come back to your setting and then disseminate it there. So any CPD opportunities. 8.7, we've highlighted the keyword together, but actually, when you read that criterion in more detail, it says alternative providers work together with the school to enhance new learning opportunities. So this is about if you're using alternative provision for any children, how do you engage with that alternative provision? How do you liaise with the staff there? And how do you communicate to ensure that the children are well looked after, but also do you use any alternative providers to enhance learning opportunities? So it could be looking at different services, any children who have any barriers to learning that are more specific, how do you use agencies or external links to enhance their experience? Do you have, some schools have consultations or consultants with people from the ADHD Foundation who come in and work and support individual learners. You could use that in this section. So if you don't use an alternative provider, don't worry, there will be other things you can evidence. But actually, again, if you feel like there isn't something here that you particularly do, you could put that as something to consider in the future. 8.8 goes back to that perception, but this time it's the perception of the local community and not the fact that the local shopkeeper gets really annoyed when all your children go in at the end of the day and they're all buying sweets and they've got to have a one in, one out policy. We're talking the general community views of the school. Is your school a genuinely valued place within the community? Has it got that reputation within the community of a school that represents the community? Do the community understand what the school is about? Do the people in the community understand your ethos as an inclusive school? So this is very much about the involvement of the families again and the wider community, people within sort of the direct vicinity and area of the school community. It also could look at the cultures and beliefs and the ethnicities that make up your school community and how you support all within that. So your school community and the community around it and how you are valued. Does everybody support your inclusive philosophy? How do you share your inclusive vision with those in your local area? If you're a school, for example, with a resource base and you have people taxied in maybe for that, and it's quite busy at the start of the day, or you're a special school and lots of people taxied in, does your community understand that that's an important aspect of your children's daily life at school? It could even link back to the mindset, really. How do you celebrate on your website that you are an inclusive school and that the community is a valued part of that? The key messages that you send home, do you mention the community? When you're talking with parents and carers, do you talk about their community with children? This is obviously an opportunity as well for you to talk about local links in your curriculum. A lot of schools now will look for those local links and see how you can celebrate the local community. Have you got a display in your school where you celebrate your community and the inclusive vision, the aspirations that you might have for your children, those kind of things? 8.2 is all around the part 8. Why do I keep saying 2 for 10? I don't know what's with me today. 8.10, participation. This very much looks at the how the community contributes and participates in school life, but also how your learners contribute within the community. Do you have any community events? Do you do litter picking in the community? Those kind of things. We've got some schools that will invite members of the community in to deliver assemblies or to share some of their skills, come and bake with the children or share their cultures with the children. Some children go and sing at local care homes. If you do that, that is where you'd put that. Do you do the bag packing in the local supermarket to raise money at Christmas time? Put that in. Do you buy toys, donations? Do you donate to the food bank? That can all go in there, that section, that participation. So how do you encourage your children, your young learners, to give something back to their local area. 8.11 looks again at the staff access to resources in the local community and even the global community to support the curriculum. So if you do have a link with a school in India, how do you use that link to enhance the curriculum? I think technology is key for this one, because technology has opened up the world to us, hasn't it? And, you know, it might be that you let the children watch Newsround every day, or watch videos that are set in different parts of the world to enhance the learning, to widen their horizons. It might be that, again, you take them to local areas of interest to really broaden their perspectives. So it's how do you access what's already available, either on the internet, through links that you've established, through programs. A lot of people do the UNICEF Rights Respecting, which is obviously an international framework, or the Oxfam Global Citizenship, that would really link nicely in here. PSHE programs where they've got that global lens on it will really fit nicely in that bit as well. 8.12, again, are those extracurricular opportunities. It's extended is the key word. How do you extend the learning? And again, that's through trips, residential visits, anything that is outside of the sort of regular curriculum that enhances the learning experience and gives those bigger opportunities. You know, the memorable learning that happens, things that the children will remember for the rest of their lives, those extended opportunities. 8.13 does look at international links and global awareness, but again, it's not necessarily saying you have to have a link with a school abroad. It's how do you talk about other cultures? How do you raise awareness about what's happening in the school? Sorry, happening in the world. In your school, you may have children from other cultures and other countries. How do you bring their home countries and cultures into your school? Do you have cultural celebration days? Do you have mother tongue language books, dual language books? And again, looking at things that are happening around them, the news. How do you promote that global outlook? It's more important than ever, isn't it, in the world we're living in? So how do you encourage that within your curriculum, within your personal development curriculum, and actually just your general ethos around inclusion? So basically, to summarize that element, any opportunity that you can showcase where you have an outward facing mindset, you're willing to look at best practice in other places, you're willing to share your resources, benefit from external resources, work in partnership with people either locally or further afield, and how you enhance your curriculum for the children at a community level, a local level, but also a global level. I hope that's all made sense. Again, lots to cover. But if we go on to the next slide, you do have an opportunity for questions. Do we have any questions about element 8? You can type them in the chat, I think, as well. If you have any. Oh, my PowerPoint's gone off. So look at the chat. It's hard to have both the screens, have the PowerPoint up and the chat at the same time, but no questions at the moment. So we will move on if that's okay. If we can have the PowerPoint back up. Thank you. And we will move on to the next. Actually, I know some of the questions that come up, and I'll just tell you a real good tip. You can have people from the community in on the assessment day, and in fact, it just really enhances that assessment process for you. So if you do work really closely with the church, have the vicar come in, or if you do work with the local food bank, bring them in. If you work really closely with the local authority, get them to come along as well. you can, or if you've got an alternative provider that you work a lot with, bring them into the meeting. Any specialists that you use, set up Zoom links. Even if we're in school for the day, with technology, we could use Teams to speak to somebody if they can't necessarily be in school. So feel free to include members of the community, people that you work with, external agencies in the assessment process. And final slide now, please, if we move on to that next slide. There should be one more slide. Oh, there we go. So thank you all for joining us today. As always, we are available at the end of a phone call or an email, and we are more than happy to answer any questions. We don't want you to feel overwhelmed by the SER document. We don't want it to be daunting. We just want it to give you the opportunity to show off everything you do day in, day out, and you don't even realise you do it half the time. So thank you very much for listening. Stay in touch with us, and good luck with your SER documents. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Oh, well, Sarah.
Yeah, we've just got one person still on. Thank you. I think she's probably gone off to respond to something, hasn't she? So do you want to end the meeting and then we'll stop the recording?
Yeah, can you go?
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Let's see.